AEW appalled at their own match, a couple of leaked surprises for the Royal Rumble, a spoiler on a new WWE Championship, and more. I'm Ollie Davis, and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Get exclusive bonus videos over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Wow. 2024 is nearly over, and what an insane year it's been for wrestling. Vince McMahon was finally forced out of WWE, Cody Rhodes finished his story. For the first time ever, a streaming platform, Netflix, bought the rights to Monday Night Raw, and, of course, the most shocking news of the year, Charlotte Flair hasn't won a championship. This is because she's not been around. She tore her ACL, MCL, and meniscus in a SmackDown match against Asuka last December, but that could all be about to change. As WrestleVotes is reporting, sources indicate that Charlotte Flair's return is imminent, with the possibility of it happening as soon as this weekend on NBC. We are told Creative was tasked earlier this week with structuring the presentation of her return. A structuring of her presentation, which presumably means have her immediately win someone's title. If I'm Nia Jax right now, I'm a little bit worried. PW Nexus, however, has Charlotte's return a few months later, with them reporting many in WWE expect both Flair and Becky Lynch back in the company by the Royal Rumble, which I suppose doesn't necessarily mean they'll return during the Rumble match. It could mean they make their comeback anytime between now, including this Saturday night's main event, and the Royal Rumble PLE on February 1st. Or Flair somehow wins one of the two new women's mid-card belts out of nowhere. Saturday night's main event will see the tournament final to crown the inaugural Women's United States Champion. The two opponents will be decided on tonight's episode of SmackDown, with the semi-finals of Bayley versus Chelsea Green and Michin versus Tiffany Stratton. According to Dr. Chris Featherstone of Sportskeeda, the first ever Women's United States Champion is set to be Chelsea Green. But anything SmackDown can do, Raw can also do with less roster depth. Because rather than have the women's US title as a floating belt that can be defended across both brands, Raw has also started their own tournament to crown a women's intercontinental champion, which, unlike SmackDown, that had top title names like Bianca Belair, Bayley, Jade Cargill, and Tiffany Stratton, Raw's has Lyra Valkyria, who's hardly been on TV since July, Dakota Kai, and Pure Fusion Collective. So why not just give the belt to Natalya? Natty is scheduled to take on Alba Fyre and Kairi Sane in the tournament to advance to face Lyra in the semi-finals. Considering Valkyria is the much hotter, younger prospect, and that she got to the finals of the Queen of the Ring tournament earlier this year, you'd think she'd be the favourite. But according to WrestleVotes Radio, some backstage in WWE are pushing for Natalya to not only beat Lyra, but to win the inaugural Intercontinental Championship. Natalya, who first debuted for the company in 1937, keeps setting WWE women's records purely because she's been around for so long. She's also part of wrestling royalty, the Hart family, with Bret and Owen Hart as her uncles. Because of Bret and Owen's connections to the Men's Intercontinental Championship, with them both establishing it as the workhorse belt in the early 90s, some think it would be nice to indulge in nepotism and reference it.
And a cover! 2, 3!
Do you want to call the action as a pro wrestling commentator? Wrestling Masterclass is now more affordable than ever, including stacks of high-quality HD video lessons, insider podcasts with top industry experts, in-ring seminars, downloadable worksheets, and so much more. From the likes of Will Ospreay, Al Snow, Raven, Mike Chioda, Dutch Mantel, and many others. Our courses outline the precise actions needed to achieve your goals faster than your peers, and so much more. Scored an average of 9 out of 10 by people who have taken them, begin your journey into the business today from as little as just $77. Scan the QR code or visit WrestlingMasterclass.com now.
Saturday night's main event will return to prime time on NBC on, you guessed it, Saturday, with WWE planning a retro-themed show, complete with 90s-style music, graphics, and legends from that period who have or haven't been cancelled. PW Insider is reporting that Ted DiBiase, Tito Santana, Jimmy Hart, Greg Valentine, and Coco Beware are all booked for the show. This is in addition to the already announced Jesse the Body Ventura taking on guest commentary duties, and WrestleVote's reporting that former women's champion Wendy Richter could also feature. Jimmy Hart's name is potentially the most interesting of the list. Not because it's Jimmy Hart, no offense Jimmy, but because of what often comes with him, as Jimmy is the Silver Surfer to Hulk Hogan's Galactus. Triple H and Cody Rhodes have teased a mystery surprise, which is expected to be the beloved Winged Eagle Championship design, but perhaps it could be Hulk Hogan, who allegedly accidentally threw a can of beer from his own Hulk Hogan beer brand at a woman's head during a promotional event earlier this year. Maybe WWE have a new policy of one controversial person in, one controversial person out. Because Logan Paul claims he's retired. Failed crypto promoter but annoyingly talented wrestler Paul was last seen losing his United States Championship to LA Knight back at SummerSlam on the 3rd of August. He didn't even make an appearance at November's highly paying Crown Jewel event in November, but he did pop up at the end of his brother Jake Paul's victory over Mike Tyson, where he claimed he could kill 58-year-old Tyson in a boxing match. Seeing that all took place live on Netflix, my nightmare booked that it was all a setup to do Logan and Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson and Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 41. But according to Logan on the latest episode of his implosive podcast, that won't happen because he's retired since he became a dad in September. Which prompted Hangman Page to post on Blue Sky, "I hope the next person they give half my moveset to is at least kinda cool." It's highly doubtful we'll see Bronson Reed at WrestleMania either, who injured his ankle jumping off the top of the War Games cage on last month's Survivor Series PLE. Reed underwent surgery this week, but Wrestling Observer Radio has reported the injury was more complicated than they thought when they went in there. Foot or ankle injuries can vary wildly in their recovery time. Some can return from breaks in just a couple of months, but people like Adam Cole, who had a piece of bone in his ankle just completely disintegrate, was out for over a year. Thankfully, the Wrestling Observer has confirmed the surgery is all complete and Reed is on the road to recovery, which he celebrated by posting, "On the road to up." In positive AEW recovery news, Luchasaurus is said to be doing much better after falling seriously ill. Luchasaurus / Killswitch was hospitalized back in September when his fiancée found him collapsed. The doctors found out he had pneumonia in both of his lungs. Thankfully, the Wrestling Observer are now reporting he is doing much better. I'm told he is working hard towards a comeback and credits Tony Khan and AEW medical staff for not only being patient with this, but also telling him to stay home the week before he collapsed, which may have saved his life. It was very serious. In less good AEW news, in what's been a very rough December for them so far, people in AEW are reportedly appalled at their own booking. One of the parts of AEW that definitely worked this year was their timeless Toni Storm character and her feud with Mariah May. Heading into their biggest show of the year, All In, on a card that also included Bryan Danielson's potential retirement and last shot at the AEW World title, many had Storm versus May as their most anticipated match. May beat her former mentor for the AEW Women's Championship on that show, and Toni Storm disappeared from AEW TV. Instead, she appeared around the world, wrestling for Stardom in Japan and CMLL in Mexico. But maybe they should have brought her back a lot sooner, considering AEW needs stars right now, and that the AEW Women's title picture lacked direction while she was gone. Toni finally made her return on Wednesday's Winter is Coming special episode of Dynamite, after May had beaten Mina Shirakawa to retain her Women's World title, where it was announced right after that Toni would have her first match back in almost 4 months, capitalizing on the momentum of her return on AEW's dying show Rampage. When Rampage first launched back in August 2021, it was pulling in 600,000 viewers an episode, which is really good for a Friday night slot. Thanks to its early months of CM Punk momentum, Rampage even once beat SmackDown in the 18-49 demo when the two shows went head-to-head for half an hour. But for the last few months, Rampage has averaged 227,000 viewers, and fell to its lowest ever numbers in the last 2 weeks, with 126,000 for the 30th of November and 177,000 on December 6th. AEW only signed new TV deals for Dynamite and Collision with Warner Bros. Discovery, as it was believed WBD didn't want Rampage. Fightful reported that Rampage is scheduled to go off the air in 2025. It's essentially a dead show. So, for some reason, Tony Khan has booked a huge Rampage for Friday the 13th. Unlike previous episodes, which have been headlined by mid to lower card talent, tonight's Winter is Coming special episode has Matt Cardona versus Brian Keith, with Chris Jericho on commentary, and Tony Storm's in-ring return match against Harley Cameron, the latter of which, considering the whole Tony Storm storyline, has reportedly appalled people in AEW, as the Wrestling Observer claims. Do you know how many people I talked to in AEW yesterday, and every last single one of them, aghast may not be the right word, appalled that Tony Storm's return is on Rampage. I swear to God this is true. You could have had 200 people lined up outside Tony Khan's door last night, one by one. All 200 of them could have gone in there and said, "This idea is stupid." And do you want to know what would happen at the end of the night? He'd have still done it, because that's what happens. People argue things with him every single week, and at the end of the day, he does whatever he wants. It sounds a lot like Tempest hosting our wrestling game show Survival Series. But this time, we got our own back. Watch the brand new episode right now where the tables are turned, Tempest, and he has to answer categories that we've chosen. Here's a clip.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Survival Series where Tempest, I have hit the record button.
Why?
I have mic'd myself up.
Why?
Because today, you will be answering questions from 5 different competitors.
What do you said we were just doing a camera test!
I lied, Tempest!
What do you mean?
It's time for some revenge. For 2 long years, you have tortured these poor people into answering questions that you want them to answer. Well, today, we have 5 different people ready to come down with their own topics to quiz you.
I do not deserve this.
You deserve
It's not my fault, they don't know
You deserve everything that's coming to you, Tempest.
Oh, God. You can't give normal people this power.